Seconds Out here. We're joined by Brian Rose, former British champion, world title challenger, is gym in Blackpool. Thank you for inviting us, Brian. It's very kind of you.
Yeah, pleasure to have you here. You know, I've known you a few years and it's always good to do some work with you.
Good stuff. Thank you, Brian. Thank you. So what are your plans then? Obviously, you got this gym up and running. Are you going to box again?
You know what? Funny you should say that. Yesterday I went for my brain scan and my medicals, so you know, I'm going to know in the next couple of weeks whether my licence has been renewed. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I'll be fighting again in the next 12, 14 weeks. I've asked for a date off MTK Global, so as soon as I hear from them, I'll know a fight date, and I'm looking forward to it because it's been nearly over a year.
It was a close one, wasn't it? Last time we saw you was March against Jack Arnfield, your old school friend, your old friend from years back. I mean, that could have gone your way, couldn't it, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sat here, and I could technically have been in a position where I beat Matthew Macklin and beat Jack Arnfield because they were both very close. I've got to be careful what I say about Macklin because he manages me now. So, but yeah, they were both very close and could have gone either way. So, you know, if I'd been badly hurt or I'd been knocked out by any of them, I'd call it a day. I'm not one of those fighters that's going to keep going until I'm 45 years old. You know, I haven't got that about me. I just really think I owe it myself to give it another go. Otherwise, I will regret it for the rest of my life. You know, I will be 45 and I'll be thinking, why didn't I give it another go? I don't want to be that boxer either.
Yeah, because I mean, that was the thing, is like the Arnfield fight, like you said, you weren't bashed up or anything like that. I mean, there were people who thought you beat Macklin, there were people who thought you beat Arnfield. I mean, if you'd have carried on, if you'd have got those decisions, still be fighting now, you could be possibly in the top 10 in the world, British champion, couldn't you?
Yeah, you know, I could be fighting for a world title, just going. If I'd have beat Macklin, I probably wouldn't have fought Jack. You know, I probably would have stepped on and fought someone else. But yeah, you know, I'd be in contention for a world title. So 2 fights, that could happen again. I'm not saying it will, but I'd be happy to come back and win a British title. You know, I just love the structure of boxing. I love getting up every day and having a purpose. Boxing, I've done all my life, and it's something that I want to carry on doing. You know, I miss it. This year I got married. I've been on a honeymoon. I've been on a stag do. I've had a year out. I've had a rest, and I really believe it's going to do me the world of good when it comes to fight again.
So how far away do you think you are from another big fight? Well, you just want one or two to shed the cobwebs, I guess, right?
I think because I've been there and I've done it. I've got a big name. There's no doubt about that. I've got a big name in boxing. I think I just need to win again. People take me serious, and then I think the big fights are there straight away. I think there'll be young lads gunning for me, you know, that think I'm over the edge, and I also think there'll be big fights there. Maybe an international title, or like I say, a British title. There's Wellborn, there's Langford. You know, they're winnable fights. I know I'd have no problem winning a British title.
I mean, and sort of, you've got the fan base. You always had a great following, didn't you? We had you know, another big night or two at the Winter Gardens, maybe, Brian.
Yeah, it was. You know, I love the Winter Gardens. We used to call it the Lions Den. It was my stomping ground. I remember I sold Winter Gardens out when I fought Max Maxwell. It was probably one of my favourite nights in terms of the crowd. They all got behind me that night because they knew what it meant to me. But yeah, I'd love a big night in Winter Gardens, even if it was my comeback fight, even a 6-rounder or an 8-rounder. I know people would still come and support me. But even a big fight there, that'd be great.
Of course, because it's been a great story, hasn't it? Thinking, of course, Maxwell, what he did to you in the first fight. I mean, that was a bad defeat. You came back and you beat him, and then you sort of came back and you avenged Carson Jones. I mean, it's been a great story, and then there are more chapters to come, Brian.
Of course. I mean, even if I wanted to retire now, I think I've achieved more than... In fact, I know I've achieved more than I've ever dreamt of. You know, I'd have been happy winning a British title, but not defending it 3 times and winning an international title, beating 2 ex-world champions on the way, and fighting in New York, Brooklyn, for a world title. For me, that was beyond expectations, and I know for a fact everyone else thought that. You know, I had to pinch myself when I was in New York, and I had the whole of Blackpool, well, a lot of the Blackpool fans singing Seasiders in the middle of Brooklyn. I'd love a night like that again, and that's probably why I want to do it. It's nothing to do with the money. It's to do with the purpose, and just I owe it myself. I just owe it myself to give it another shot.
I mean, obviously that fight in America was against Demetrius Andrade, who's been in the headlines this week because the fight with Billy-Joe Saunders has been made. How do you see that one going, Brian?
I think it's a genuine 50-50 fight. I hate sitting on the fence. I don't like doing it, but I think you should always pick a winner. But it's really hard. Andrade's been a little bit inactive, probably since me. He's had a few fights, but he's been very inactive. But I know with him signing with Eddie now, he'll be really looked after. He'll do a proper job with him. Billy Joe's no doubt a class fighter, and I'm rooting for Billy Joe, obviously, because he's British and he's my friend. But it's a tough fight, and it's a genuine 50-50 fight. Andrade is a class operator. He was a world amateur champion. I only found out that about 5 minutes before I was going in the ring. He's a class fighter. No one has ever done that in both amateur, pro, has ever done that to me, what he did to me that night.
What's so good about him, Brian?
He's just so long. His lean backs, his timing. Every time I threw a punch, I felt like he was hitting me. So it got to the point in the fight where I just stopped throwing punches because I felt like he was punishing me every time I threw a punch. It's like opening a door and someone throwing a snowball at you every time you open the door. So I just kept them doors shut.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I mean, and you were saying like his arms were so long, weren't they?
Yeah, they were like down at his ankles. It was just so long and so hard to hit. I was trying to find a picture the other day of me hitting him, but I couldn't even find a picture of me hitting him once.
I mean, I think you said afterwards he's like an octopus, isn't he?
Yeah, it's like he's got 8 arms, but he has only got 2 arms. Yeah, he's just an unbelievable fighter. There's no doubt if he'd been active, he'd still be a world champion now. Probably 3-4 time world champion. But it's just a shame that he had to fall out with his managers and things. I don't know what happened, but he's just been very inactive. So, like I say, if he'd been fighting more regular, he'd definitely be up there with the best in the world.
I was going to say, would he be a pound for pound fighter by now, do you think?
Quite possibly. You know, it's very hard to say because to be a pound for pound fighter, you have got to do great things. So it's hard to say, but I think so, yeah. And I hope so, because in a way, with me being beat by him, the more he goes on and achieves, makes me look even better than I actually am. So really, I do want him to achieve, and I do want him to go on and be great, because it'll just go to show how well I did going there and giving it my best.
So how does Billy Joe beat him then, Brian?
It's very hard because they're both very similar. It might not be a great fight because they're both southpaws, they're both very slick. They could clash a little bit. I think Billy Joe's got to stick to his boxing, keep moving those feet. The thing with Andrade, he doesn't really move his feet, but he does lean back and he does get low. So I think with Billy Joe's tricky footwork, there's a very good chance he could just totally outbox him. But then again, it might work the other way, and Andrade might be too good for him. You know, they're both very similar, but also very different because of the way they move. Andrade's less footwork, Billy Joe's dances around the ring.
So you think Andrade would like somebody who comes to him? He doesn't want to maybe move his feet that much.
No, I think I made it so easy for him because I mean, I'm not saying I would have gone out there and won the fight, but I think I froze on the night. The whole occasion got to me, and I didn't throw as many punches as I wanted to, and I stood in front of him, didn't move my head. I didn't change the angles like I was in sparring leading up to that. I did nothing I was supposed to do. So I made it easy for him. I think if you move your feet and you try and box him, that's the way you beat Andrade. If you stand in front of him, you're knackered, which Billy Joe's not going to do that. He's going to box him. So he's got a very good chance, Billy Joe, winning that fight.